Have a look at creating an orb. And I'm using Photoshop for this. You can use Photoshop elements. The process is fairly much the same. The first thing we want to do is to be able to view the layers. So I click to view the layers there. You can see we've got one layer, the background image there, which I'm going to duplicate. And the easiest way to do that, if I right click with the mouse and select duplicate layer, you can see we now have two. We've got the background and background copy. We need to make sure that we're still on the top layer there. That's just to protect the bottom layer. I always do that. That's the first procedure I always do, is to copy the layer, just so that we can always go back to the original image if we need to. Next, we need the elliptical marquee tool, which is located on the left. I'm going to draw an ellipse by holding down the mouse and dragging, and if I hold down the shift key whilst I'm doing that, you'll see that I'll get a true circle. So something like that. I want to select the area I want to use for the actual sphere that I'm going to create. And then we go to image, we go to edit, not image, edit, copy, and then edit, paste. Now when you paste, the actual, what I call the marching ants, disappear off the screen, the selection. So we need to get the selection back at this stage. So we click on select on the menu, reselect, and that will bring the selection back up on the screen. And you see now on the layers, we've now got this little selection, and that's what we're going to use to create our glass orb. Now, to get the effect of the glass orb, we need to make sure that we distort this. So we're going to make it look like a glass bowl. And to do that, we go to filter on the menu, distort, and then spherize. And basically what I want to do with this is just make sure that this slider, so you can affect that, is all the way up to 100%, and then we click on OK. And that's the effect that we get. Okay, next stage, we leave the selection on the screen. And we want a new layer now, so we go to layer on the menu, new layer, just click on OK when the box appears, and you can see now on the right hand side in the menus we have got a new layer there, okay, which is blank. We're now going to paint on that layer, so we need a brush. Change the size of the brush. You can select the brush size and the hardness. The hardness needs to be on 0, and we need quite a large brush. If you see, if I put the mouse on the screen, I can actually see the size of the brush. I want it a bit larger than that. Something about that size. Now you need to look at this with your eyes, because depending on the size of your image, the pixels makes absolutely no difference to the size of the brush. You need to look at the actual image that you're working on, and you need a brush around that size if you look at the screen. It's not critical. Just click on there and remove that. Now we need black and white for the foreground and background colours. I'm going to use white in the foreground colour. I'm just going to paint around the edge. So I'm holding down the mouse, and because I'm using a soft brush, I'm going to get on the edge there. Just make sure the opacity is all the way up, 100%. You can see that if I go around the edge there, it's only painting in the selection. And it's quite a soft effect. Something like that. It's not too critical again. Then I'm going to switch to black. So if I click on this little arrow there and select black for the foreground colour, see there, where you can click on the actual box there and you can select black that way. I'm just going to draw around the bottom. Got a bit of shadow. I'm going to just chuck another couple of colours around the edge of that. So I'm going to go to the foreground picker, we'll select red. We'll put a little bit of red there. And then I'll go for yellow. We'll put a little bit yellow on this edge there. Okay, now we're going to blur this. So to do that, we go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. And we drag the slider, and basically what we're doing is just looking at the screen just to get a nice effect. So I want something about like that. And I'll click on OK. Again, use your eyes. We just want to get that glass looking effect. And I'm just going to paint a little bit more white around the edges there. So change back to white. I'm just going to go on this top area there where the light would be coming from, and just paint that on there. And then we're going to create a highlight, so a stronger white colour. So I'm going to change the size of the brush, make it smaller, a little bit larger than that, and then I'm just going to click a couple of times just to create a highlight on there. And there basically is our glass globe. What we need to do now, if we look at the layers, we've got layer 2, layer 1, and I need to put those two layers together, merge them together. So I click on the top layer, I hold down the Shift key on the keyboard, and click on the other layer, so both are selected, and then using the mouse over the one of the layers, we right click, and from the menu we select Merge Layers. Now, just before we do anything else, I just want to put a white line around that selection there. You can see that we've still got the selection on there. So to do that, the easy way, we go to Edit on the menu, and we select Stroke. And then we put in the width of the stroke that we want. So I'm just going to put 1 pixel in there. So I'll type in 1 px. Make sure that the colour is on white. If it's not, you would click there and select white from the colour picker and click on OK. Now we can take off the selection. Select, deselect. And there we have our first glass orb there. Now I'm going to resize that, so I click on the Move tool again to do that. Make sure the Show Transform Controls tick is in the box, so you can see when I click on that we get these what we call graphic handles, and I'm going to go to the corner there, hold down the Shift key, and when I drag and resize it will remain true to the shape. Click on the tick on the options bar or press enter on the keyboard. I usually press enter just to make the transformation take place. And now we have our orb. We can change the opacity of this layer. If we go to the layer opacity, I can take it down just a little bit so you can see the opacity is in that location. If we drag the slide, you can see I drag that down, it makes it more transparent. So I'm just going to take the transparency probably down to about 70% roughly, and there's our first glass orb. You can see it's a little bit transparent there, and that's the glass orb created. Now the next effect is basically to copy that, so I'm going to right click on that layer and duplicate the layer, and then using the Move tool I can move that one to a different position. I can again resize it from the corner, hold down the Shift key, press enter when I've got it the size that I want. I'm going to do that a couple of times, so I'm going to copy this layer now, so right click that one, duplicate layer again. I'm going to repeat the process, move it, resize from the corner, position it where I want it, and again press enter on the keyboard to make sure the transformation takes place. Duplicate that layer the last time, resize. All the time I'm going a bit smaller. This is just my idea, you don't have to do this. Obviously you can play around and create your own creations. Okay, so what I'm actually going to do now is to merge these layers together. So on the top layer I click, I come down to the bottom layer, I hold down the shift key before clicking, and that will now select all those layers. If I right click, I can merge those together, merge layers. You can see I can move that around. What I'm going to do with that is I'm going to duplicate that layer. So right click, duplicate layer. And I'm actually going to use the move tool. I've got the move tool still on there. I'm going to drag this from the left hand side over. If I hold down, that's it, that should be okay. Just press the enter key. You can see I can move that to any position. So I'll put it about there. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the background copy layer. Remember, we've got two layers there the same. What I'm going to do with this is to change the mode of this. Now if you look above the layers there, you've got the word normal. If I click on multiply from the list, so I'll click on the little arrow there where it says normal, select multiply, and what multiply does, it makes whatever's underneath that layer darker basically. So it looks a lot more dramatic like that, and it also shows up the orbs more. I can change the opacity of that layer just to get the effect that I want, and that's what I want. And when I'm happy with all that, the last stage is layer on the menu, flatten image, and there's our orbs all finished.